The songwriting process was it was a challenge that I gave myself for that month. Was 30 days of songwriting for all of April of 2020. So that particular song, I think it was written kind of halfway through the challenge. So every day I would sit down and I would write whatever came for that day. There was usually no themes, ideas that I started with. I would just kind of sit down and wait until an idea came. But that particular day for the song Feelings, I had a horoscope reading that read, "Bex, feelings aren't facts." And I got shivers with that line. I was like, oh, that's like, I relate to that. That's a song. And it just related to a lot of the stuff that I was feeling at the time too. So I took that line and I just kind of worked with that and worked through the emotions of that.
Officially welcome you back to Pop-Up Conversations. We're here in Toronto. We talk to artists across the country about the musical journey, projects they have in the moment. We are really super excited to be having you today. So welcome on the show.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So I'm very fascinated with the narrative of this song. We're going to be talking today for folks who are going to join us. We're talking about Feelings, your single, which was released on October 15th. I do have a ton of stuff to say about it, but I want you to give me the background. I know it was written in the first few months of the pandemic, but give me the backstory as to how you got into writing the song and what the song actually means to you.
Well, the songwriting process was it was a challenge that I gave myself for that month. Was 30 days of songwriting for all of April of 2020. So that particular song, I think it was written kind of halfway through the challenge. So every day I would sit down and I would write whatever came for that day. There was usually no themes, ideas that I started with. I would just kind of sit down and wait until an idea came. But that particular day for the song Feelings, I had a horoscope reading that read, "Bex, feelings aren't facts." And I got shivers with that line. I was like, oh, that's like, I relate to that. That's a song. And it just related to a lot of the stuff that I was feeling at the time too. So I took that line and I just kind of worked with that and worked through the emotions of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, go ahead if you're still.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, so I was gonna ask why the challenge? How did you come about the challenge to write so many songs in those days?
Oh, it was hard. Some days, honestly, the songs were not that great. Not like maybe there was a handful of them that ended up becoming what is the majority of Star Trails of the full album that's coming out. But
Okay.
yeah, some days it was just, I just wanted to be able to work through the process. So I had to just commit to doing it. I set aside, I had to do like a regimented schedule of every day.
Okay.
At this time is when my writing period is going to be. And I found that I wrote better at night. So the songs were actually technically written at like midnight, I guess sort of the day before, but like kind of into the next day. And then I made
Okay.
this thing where every day at 1 p.m. I would go on Instagram live. And even if nobody was watching, I would just share it. That way I knew I was committed to having to write something. And then I told the audience to, okay, every day at this time for this entire month, this is what I've committed to. That way I knew I had to stick to it because I was accountable to people watching as well. So that kept me, even if something wasn't fully prepared, it was like, okay, well, this is the song for that day. So it was forcing myself to write every single day was the biggest hurdle, even when days where I didn't feel like writing or inspiration wasn't coming to me. But what I learned from that experience is that when I pushed myself to just keep writing, even on the off days, something always came out, which was really interesting. Because more often than not, a song would have been written by the end of that songwriting day. So that was really interesting to find out.
I see. I see. Would this be the first time that you have done that? Have gone on a challenge? Like what sparked the challenge for you? Was it just because there was there's so much downtime during the start of the pandemic and the world was going crazy? Why did you get into the challenge of writing?
That was definitely, the pandemic was part of it, just because this was, like, for so many of us, the first time in my life where things were so slowed down and I really didn't have any distractions. Trying to get into music writing in the past was always a struggle because I was juggling so many things.
Gotcha.
Many artists are, I know. And so I found that just to have this concentrated period of time, I wanted to really take advantage of that for myself and challenge myself. So
Mhm.
I didn't know how long this was going to last. I didn't know when I would have to go back to work. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this time right now where there's really no distractions, and I'm just going to write and see what happens. But then I had given myself challenges similar to this in the past, where I
Okay.
gave myself kind of a ridiculous challenge back in, I think it was 2018, where I wanted to get into songwriting more. So I gave myself an even bigger challenge of writing a song every single day for a year, which didn't work out. I made it to like day 100, I think. And the songs were so bad, but same thing where I was like, I forced myself to just publish it so that I was accountable to it. But I was starting to get kind of embarrassed of like exposing like all of like the vulnerability of the songwriting process, and just because literally there's no time during that point in my life. I think I was juggling 3 to 4 different jobs. So
Hmm.
I was literally just like any fragment of time, I would just like write a voice memo and then I would just like put it out on social media without even looking at it. And those are kind of cringy, but I'm also really glad I did it too, because it got me to kind of push through like that period of like feeling like, oh, like people are gonna judge this or like whatever, and just kind of like move through that learning period and that learning curve of songwriting and development.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's really about the process, right? I think I've heard a few other artists say that, whether they be music writers or authors, that at least for an author, just write 1 page a day, right? And it helps you refine just the skill, the motor skill. So it's really about the process and not necessarily the end result. Correct?
Yeah, oh, I love that, because I was just thinking about that today, how it's just all about the process,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Hmm.
I'm trying to like really in on that and like take in those moments, because life is so fast, where it's like that's what it's about at the end of the day, is that journey and moving through the process. And exactly, not thinking and not worrying about what's the end result going to be, because that's what we put pressure on ourselves for, and that's what takes away the excitement and the fun of the journey.
Gotcha, got you. So I wanna go back to what you said, or rather the just the line from the song. What you saw that inspired feelings. That feelings are not facts. Just you said it spoke to you. I'm gonna ask you why it spoke to you, but I just want to let you know that when I read the bio as well, I think that is something I need to write on my wall as well, because it's so heavy, it's so well said. There are things I listen to or are things I read, and I'm like, damn, I wish I wrote that. I wish I came up with that. This is one of those kind of phrases that just encapsulates so much stuff that we go through in our everyday lives, and just bringing us to that point where we remember that, hey, even though it feels heavy, it doesn't necessarily translate into reality. So where were you at that point of your life that this meant so much to you and you wanted actually to execute, turn it into a song?
Well, first I'll just say, like, I kind of like that people are able to take that kind of line that does feel heavy and interpret. I think it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, for what I was going through, I just feel like sometimes my reaction to things are definitely based off like heightened emotions, and then it's like that cringy moment of like reflecting back on what you did because you didn't think it through, and you didn't think through their perspective maybe versus like your own perspective, and just how emotions and feelings are so subjective. and
Hmm.
um and even the way, like, I think there's some lines in the song that speak to this, where like sometimes even our reactions to things emotionally come out the wrong way, or they come out in a way that people misinterpret, like you're crying or you're laughing at a funeral or something, like very
Yeah,
negatively
yeah,
talk
yeah, yeah.
about like things like that. It's so subjective. So that line spoke to me just because I think at that point in my life too, and still going through just self-development of trying to like hone in on being more self-aware and being more present in the moment so that I don't just react upon impulse.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, it's such a great message. I think that's hidden in this great song. Tell me about your musical influences, because you listen to the song, and if you're not attentive enough, I'm a huge fan of lyrics, right? So I want to listen. I want to hear what you're saying, and that's how I picked up on all of the things that we're talking about right now. But tell me about your musical influences and how this journey has come about. I know that Avril Lavigne, there's lights, but what got you into music to begin with? Why has this become an outlet for you? Why?
Oh, there's just been like particularly female singer-songwriters I gravitate towards, and I feel like there's been so many of them throughout my life that I've been influenced by from the age of 5 to now. And those ones that I've highlighted, like Avril Lavigne, Michelle Branch, Lights, are ones that just really stick out as really kind of deep songwriters that just even in the way that they sing and express it too, you really feel the emotion and the power of the song and the lyrics. And
Mm-hmm.
I've always been drawn to that. I've always been, yeah, a fan of the lyrics, but also just like the emotions that the artist conveys it. You can tell when it's coming from a place that's real.
Yeah.
It reveals like a little bit of their soul. And I think too, just growing up on like for going back to like Avril Lavigne, like I grew up off of her, and she was like the epitome of like pop punk like female rocker back when I was just like 11 years old. So I bought her CD because it was CDs at the time, and I think that's why those people stick out in my brain, just because that was when we actually had physical copies of things. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
now, like on Spotify, I find it hard to actually remember who artists are, even when I really, really like them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many inspirations now. There's too many to count. But definitely, I'm always drawn to the female singer-songwriters.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha. I'm so fascinated about just your style of music, and is this part of an EP? Are you working towards something here?
Oh, this is part of like my first full-length album. So that was the third single off of it. So
Gotcha.
it'll be 10, technically 10 songs, but two of them um are more 8 full songs, and then two are kind of like ambiance and like intro. I don't want to call it filler because there is still like heart and like thought put into them, but there's 10 songs total, and it's coming out this month.
Awesome, awesome. And what date is that?
November 19th.
Awesome, awesome. We're going to be looking out for it. Are we to expect more of this kind of content across the album?
Yeah, well, because most of the songs would have come from that songwriting period that was very like introspective, and
Gotcha.
the taking songs like that idea of feelings where like each kind of goes inwards, because we weren't like out doing things. I wasn't writing from in the moment experiences like I would normally do, so I had to kind of reflect backwards. So it's almost like going into a bit of a diary entry, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
with some of these songs, which is why it ended up, it wasn't supposed to be an album, but they ended up connecting so well in a thematic way that it just felt right to put it out as a package to be listened to together, because I think each song kind of builds off the next one and becomes a little bit more impactful to hear them all as a collection. And that's when I made the decision, like, okay, I'm going to do this as an album.
Awesome, and that's what I love really when an artist is able to tell, not really a single story, but able to drive a theme across multiple songs in an album. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to that record when it drops November 19th. But for the song itself, who did you work with, and how long was that process of recording it?
So I worked with another artist from Toronto,
Okay,
named James McLeod, who goes by, he also goes by Left Lamb, so he's on
okay,
here. It's Left Lamb.
okay,
Um, so we it was good timing with the album because we had just met right before the pandemic hit, because we worked
okay,
on some vocals and some production for an EP that we just put out in 2020. So
okay,
I had a really good experience working with James through that, and then it ended up, I shared with him like the day we were doing a vocal recording for that particular EP. I ended up sharing just one of my
okay.
songs written that ended up being on the album. And we made we made a demo, which I'd never worked that fast and like that smoothly before with this song. It just felt like a really good collaboration. So I immediately got excited about that. I'm like, okay, so this demo sounds like the final version. I really want to see where a full album could go or like more songs could go. So then the pandemic hit. So a lot of our work together, we started songwriting together actually a little bit too, just to refine my songwriting skills as I was going through the songwriting challenge. It was good to have another person in the industry who had many more years of experience and really good songwriter themselves. So I got some experience with that, which was new to me as well. And we just worked through like Zoom and like Skype meetings and until we were finally able to go back into the studio and then really start going with it this past year and start the recording process, which was all done in Toronto. And
awesome. So between the desire to create a record and what you actually put out, I often ask artists this question. For this one single, is the how close do you think you've come to how you envisioned the song and what you eventually put out when it was album ready?
Oh, so for that particular single, that was thrown into the album last minute. Just because I looked back when I decided like, maybe I do want to do a full album. We were almost done the recording process, and it was only supposed to be an EP.
Okay.
But then I wanted to just see how a demo would sound, and so I think I took the song into the studio and I made just like a little like rough demo for my basement apartment at home. It was like super like, I'm not a producer, like it was really roughly put together, but I brought it into the studio and James just started jamming on it, and because we both grew up with like that early 2000s pop punk background, he started jamming some pop punk chords that just went perfectly to it. And I didn't even know that it was going to be a pop punk song until that happened. And the demo was made again, similar to Supergirl, within a couple of hours, which is basically like the process after that was just like a little bit of mixing and mastering, but really the demo and like how like the final sound was just created pretty organically and pretty swiftly compared to some of the other songs too. So it was interesting how that ended up just happening so easily, I guess.
Gotcha. No, we really love the song here, and we just want to say congratulations. Feelings was released on October 15th. Are there plans for? I know the world is opening back up right now, but are you planning on playing this album? Like, do you have plans of going out and meeting your fans and playing on stage and all of that? Is all of that in the works?
So I'm just trying to like get it's in the works for sure. That's okay. Vision with it. I've thought about two different ways of doing it too. Like having a full live band would be the dream, but right now I'm just trying to like figure out like what would a setup with just like as a solo artist be for right now, and what that would look like, and trying to do my own research of like what does that look like in certain venues in Toronto and like where does that fit. So it's in the works right now. So I'm hoping by like January 2022 is the goal to actually start putting the album into a live performance situation is the dream.
Gotcha. No, we're really excited. I am excited to see you live. So when that time does come and you have all of that figured out, please reach out and we'll be more than excited to come watch you perform wherever it is that we catch you. We want to say a big congratulations on the single and then the album that's going to be dropping on the 19th of this month. We think it's a remarkable single, and we want to say we're fans of yours. We support you. We're going to keep supporting you, and our doors are always open whenever you want to come back on. Just let us know. We love you and we love your music.
Thank you so much. I really truly appreciate that.
No problem. We're gonna point people to your record. Again, I just want to reiterate what I said initially about the message of the song itself. I think it's very important, and I am encouraging people to actually listen to the lyrics. It does hold a lot of lessons there that we could all learn from, and could help us navigate life a lot better. So thank you so much, Bex, for putting out great music, for writing great songs. We love it. We're going to keep supporting you, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
No problem. We'll keep talking for sure. Have a great rest of your night.
You as well.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.